Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am back. Welcome to a review of the Revolutions podcast by Mark Duncan. The first revolution. Yes. It's the English Civil War, or is it the British Civil War? Capitalism. You're back. You are back there. Why are you here? Alex said that you should be seeing me. I mean, I suppose you at the Christmas special. Okay, so Nick's coming. I'm a massive fan of you. I know, right? I know why you're here. Right? It's okay. I'm not going to be a danger to turn itself. I saw you met with the author and you're a fictional explain. But so you are. And it's like, are you here? This whole thing is please. Darling, please be amazing. Trust me. Make sure that can happen. Don't worry, you'll be okay. It's fine. Yeah, that's totally it. Yeah. I mean, that's why we're here. That's why we're, cool. Yeah, that's it. We'll put the gun away. Alright. So, anyway, as I was saying, ladies and gentlemen, I had it pointed out to me by one of those lovely dissecting world chappies that I kind of did my review wrong, and this is the thing, good feedback is good. It is very definitely good, because you see, the thing is that I get quite a bit of bad feedback, as in, like, trolls. And the thing is that I like the naturalistic style of review. And I like reviews that are easy and quick and convenient to do. It's kind of like with my writing. It's a cardinal sin of writing. You should never write just one draft, because editing saves it. No writing is good the first time round. You must be edited, polished. You can never ever do a first draft, and yet personally, I believe that you're not a true writer unless you can do a first draft well. So that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been practicing, and I kind of take that approach to my videos, and that's why I like the great Lord Spoonie's videos, Noah and Twilight, because his videos are naturalistic. They are one take talking to camera, or if they're not, they look like it. They look very naturalistic. That said, though, I am a massive fan of Brows Held High, because Kyle Calgreen, Oran Citizen, Oh My Yachts, he's brilliant. And he's all about the analysis and the multiple takes and doing numerous editing tricks to get it just perfect. And he so often does. And I realised that I sold myself short. And I sold you guys a poor review of the History of Rome podcast, because of my urge to be naturalistic about it. And obviously, I shouldn't be so worried about naturalistic reviews for kind of obvious reasons. But at the same time, I kind of feel the need to make amends. So in this video, there will be certain editing tricks used to kind of patch over any faults in memory where my brain just goes, what was I talking about? So I will be covering Mike Duncan's Revolutions, the first revolution that he tackled, to kind of tackle some of the more in-depth review that I missed off before. But before I do that, you are gonna have to go. 'Cause, yeah, I mean, look at the screen space I've got here. For this thing to work at all, yeah, I'm not really in the center, so, fuck off. Yeah. Fuck off. I'm not fucking kidding. Out the door now. Go. Come on. That's it. Albert. Oh, no. I don't know what you're talking about. Go on. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is not important because, hey, I've got a title sequence. Roll VT! Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Gordon Jones. I am a fiction created by Alex Jahans. I am the anti-critic. I have a gun that does I know not what. Welcome to my show. You're about to watch a video. Suppose you'll like it, or maybe not, I don't know. Whatever, on with the show! Space parasites created God through telekinesis. Welcome, young weird people, to my school where we teach weird people how to fight the evil weird people. I'm not afraid of death, and that's why I can kick your ass. I am Awesome Man! He is such a shithead, and he's going to hell, but he's on our side. It's time. So, Mike Duncan's Revolutions podcast. There are 16 episodes in the sequence, with 5 supplemental videos. Now, the 16 episodes of the sequence are the story, the narrative, where it begins to where it ends. The start of the revolution, the full parabolic curve of the king being crowned once more, and a chance at that. This segmentation and separation of in-depth analysis of separate topics like armies or key figures in the movement from the actual narrative means that you can have the key focus of the series and at the same time have the separate timeout, okay, pause story, let's talk about a particular topic kind of editorial stuff without compromising the original story. It'd be kind of like if in the middle of a Doctor Who episode or series there's Stephen Moffat just like pressed pause on the plot and said, okay, this week I'm going to explain to you the specifics of how the Doctor did that tiny thing that doesn't really matter. And you know what? It works. It really works because it's okay. The first supplemental segment is on the armies. That's something you really don't need to know because it's armies. It's just like in a history, you can quite happily watch or listen to something and just go, oh, so these two guys are gonna hit each other and stuff, and yeah, it doesn't matter that much. Equally, it could be that you already know in depth about the armies, so you don't particularly want to sit through a lecture detailing them when you know probably more than is being detailed anyway, because this is the kind of detailing for someone new to it, for someone who's just like, hey, free podcast, I want to listen. So it's good that it can be skipped, but it's good that it's available. And I honestly do wonder whether people would watch and like pay for special Stephen Moffat explains how the Doctor just did that thing episodes. Because that's essentially what the supplemental episodes are. It's like, okay, there are going to be some people fighting, you don't need to know the information, and you might be smart enough to already know it, but in case you don't, let's put the plot on hold and detail in depth, or at least as much as we can within the time frame, what the armies are like. And then, if you want to, you can listen to it, absorb it, and go, oh yeah, didn't know that before. On with the show. And I like that. I mean, there was kind of like that in the History of Rome podcast, in that in the 180 episode count, you would have an episode that would focus on weddings or Christmas or just a tour of the city. But in the Revolutions podcast, this is segmented out. And I like this. Because it's a series within a series. I mean, I'm going to repeat myself, but I find that handy and useful. Because the nerdy stuff is interesting and people do want it, and some people do feel lost without it, as we can tell from my Doctor Who example, that there are still people pissed that you didn't explain how the TARDIS exploded. Oh, Cavalion did it, did she? Yes, because, we had that said from, Silence Will Fall, but no, you haven't explained how. I want to know the precise mechanics of how the TARDIS exploded. What happened specifically, detail, in depth. That was important, so tell me specifically, how did the TARDIS explode? All it would take is, kind of just like a half-hour episode, or maybe just 15 minutes of Stephen Moffat talking to camera saying, okay, you want to know how the TARDIS exploded? I'll show you. It happened like this. Here's some diagrams. Here's specifics. Yes, this is how it happened. Look, yes, see plebeians. Yes, this is how it happened. But as someone listening to Revolutions, that's good. That is good, because it's like, yes, I am thick. I have not been taught this, or if I have forgotten it. Please tell me in depth about the armies and the New Model Army and the Puritans and the Levelers. Tell me, I want to know, because I art thick. And so it's useful. Okay, so Mike Duncan himself and the podcast, the History of Rome, and the Revolution series have, like Dissecting Worlds, a very catchy theme tune that seamlessly leads into itself, so that you can happily listen to it in series. Because I watch a lot of TV series. I've been going through Babylon 5 and Battlestar Galactica and Farscape, and the biggest annoyance for me is listening to the darn theme tunes, because it's just dull space, null space. It's just yeah. Like, I've got like 60 episodes to go through. I don't need to spend a minute being told the same bloody information each time. And so you can skip the ending sequences, but you can never skip the title sequence, which is annoying because you've seen it. You've seen it several times. You don't need to see it again and again and again. I mean, when TV series are aired, normally this isn't a problem because it's been a week or a month, or in Sherlock's case, 3 years. But when you're watching it on DVD, one after the other, you really get pissing annoyed with listening to the same sodding tune. Yes, it's Babylon 5. It is the home for peace, and the darkness is coming. But no, Dissecting Worlds and the History of Rome and the Revolutions podcast have tunes that are kind of classical. Certainly by contrast to the modern music that we listen to nowadays, the dubstep, the electronic music, all lyrical. Kind of, these podcasts, they have a very much a kind of pleasant, jaunty, upbeat I can't sing it, but yeah, it's a nice swelling orchestral and out of an episode and into the next. And the advantage that Mike Duncan has over my good, the good people at Dissecting Worlds is that his voice it's like a mix between a university lecturer and like Stephen Fry or something. It's proper British. It's sort of like smooth and lilting, and it sort of says, "Welcome home. My name is Mike Duncan, and welcome to the history of Rome. Hello, and welcome to the revolutions." And it's just a quiet and into a nice hot bath. Yes, things are nice and cool. I am relaxed. Bring on the history. I am ready for the history. Let it begin. And kind of that tone continues. Because it's like, obviously, the reason I love this stuff, as you might have gathered from the poor History of Rome podcast review that I did, is that I like the intrigue. I like the backstabbing. I like how it's like EastEnders with killing each other and betraying each other. But the voice is kind of quiet. It's literally quiet in the sense that I have to physically turn my volume up because I'm listening on headphones, and so it's like, I need it a bit louder. But it's quiet, even-tempered, and yeah, relaxing. So it's just like, yeah. So and then Constantine murdered his son-in-law, and he murdered his wife in revenge, and you just kind of like accepting it. Just kind of like, oh, that's interesting. That's cool, that. Yeah. Thanks for that. That's interesting. It's never obviously the stuff it's describing is kind of difficult stuff. It's decapitating king. It's ending Parliament in various different difficult ways. and yet it's always kind of like a genteel, and then this guy shot someone in the head and lots of people died. There was a massacre and it was quite bloody and horrible. They lost a lot of men, but it's all okay because they decided to regroup and have a parliament, which ended badly because, yes, Oliver Cromwell had to end it, or he was involved in it, even if he wasn't specifically participating in it. He knew about it and he didn't say anything. So, yeah, the parliament ended and the city was in uproar and there was a civil war and people died and it was bad. But then things were good because, you see, that they kept striving for new ideals, and there was this guy who was awesome and badass, and he was like, I shall unite you. And there was this guy who was like a young buck and saying, yes, well, you see, I disagree with you, and so I shall attempt to be badass myself, and I shall attempt to take you on with my own army. And then he looked around and nobody turned up because nobody liked him. Isn't that swell? I can't quite capture it, but it's pleasant, jovial, interesting, and kind of relaxing in how friendly and knowledgeable and just kind of like Stephen Fry it is. Although not just deep baritone. I'm probably using baritone incorrectly. But then there is the fact of the writing, why the writing is so great. Because I was going to detail this in the history of Rome, but it's just like, he'll be detailing this stuff and just being like, oh yes, and yes, then this historical thing happened and these people died and that person died and that person, he got tortured. Yes, he got tortured, he did. And then these guys, they attempted to make a stand and they didn't have such a good turnout, so they all got rounded up and tortured and killed. Oh, and then, by the way, there was this bit that was like Star Wars. Genuinely, you're listening to the history of Rome and it's the usual thing of Caecilius overcame Pompeius and Pompeius overcame Caecilius and Caesar turned up and he was rammed in the ass by Brutus and Brutus was murdered by Octavianus who became Augustus, and then there was a scene much like Luke on Hoth. It's just suddenly in the middle of a genteel, relaxing kind of commentary on death and destruction, you'll get a reference to Star Wars, a reference to the film adaptation, to the TV adaptation, and, like, kind of going, oh yes, and then Kirk Russell did this, and you're like, oh, you're referring to Spartacus Kirk Russell because of the film. Neat. He does less of that, less oblique referencing in Revolutions, but certainly there is snark. There is sarcasm. It's not an overt zinger. It's slipped in. It's just kind of slipped in, kind of just as you're going, and yes, and then this happened, and this happened, and yes, this was rather like this thing that I'm referencing. But anyway, yes, anyway, back to the thing. And I like that. Because it remains calm and genteel and interesting because it's about blood and guts and death and whatever. And yet, at the same time, it's a quiet sort of wake-up of, oh! Humour! But there are little spikes of humour throughout. Humour without. But no, there are little spikes of kind of humorous language throughout. And it's never really that pronounced as it is in the history of Rome, because Rome is so olden day, because it's ancient, obviously. Whereas with the English Civil War, it really does just feel like it could be 10 years ago. Because, yeah, okay, we don't quite have a king, but the whole issues with Parliament being corrupt and stuff, that's very much here and now. So you're kind of used to the satire and commentary, because it's the Brits and Parliament and kings. But in Rome, it'll just be like, oh, and then Christ was crucified on the cross, and you're like, huh? Christ? On the cross? Ah! It's kind of like when I was watching Farscape and there was suddenly a reference to 9/11. It's just like, what? You mean this is happening in the real world? Okay. It's genuinely fascinating. It genuinely is. And yeah, it is an important period of history for anyone who is in Britain or is just interested, or if you're in America. This leads into the American Civil War and the American War of Independence, apparently. I've seen it argued, and apparently this is where it's going to lead into. But yeah, I would highly recommend this to you guys, and I hope this is a better review. I can't guarantee anything, but I hope it's a better review. I'm trying, but I need feedback. I need actual, proper criticism saying, okay, this isn't as successful as it could be because of X or Y, so maybe you should do A or B. Kind of. If you've got criticisms, detail why you don't think they work and offer solutions as to how to improve it. Because that's what the Dissecting Worlds people suggested to me, and that's what's helped me, I hope. So anyway, I hope you liked the opening. I think Batman might be off his meds, so he's a bit strange, isn't he? Yeah. I hope next time Alex has written him a better script, and that he's got contacts or something, because clearly the poor bugger couldn't see. Clearly. Anyway, I have been Gordon Jones and Falcon for watching the review. Thank you for watching the review. I clearly can't speak, so Jack or Bloody Dog, iba do for tipo. Labo, yiti papo tutup.